It was 2 a.m. on May 12, 116, and the night in the countryside of X was eerily quiet. The soft hum of high-performance engines broke the stillness as a convoy of 7 jet-black vehicles sped down the country highway. The convoy's sleek design and military specs made it stand out. The vehicles moved in a perfect formation, 2 ahead, 2 in the rear, and 2 flanking a sedan in the middle. This wasn't a regular convoy. Everything about it screamed secrecy. No license plates, no insignia, just a quiet, imposing presence speeding through the desolate night. The convoy arrived at a yellow building hidden in the countryside after an hour of travel. Its stark, unremarkable appearance contrasted sharply with the convoy's dark, menacing aura. 4 soldiers standing guard moved to approach. This wasn't just any military base, it was something more. As the first vehicle's door opened, a young man in a black suit stepped out and handed a soldier a dark red card. The soldier examined it carefully, his fingers tracing the edges of the card. Before he spoke softly, "I need to seek approval from my superiors." The tension was palpable. The man in the black suit frowned, annoyance flashing across his face. "The signature of General Jin is on the card," he said coldly. "Whose approval do you still need?" His voice dripped with impatience, but the soldier remained unfazed, his duty clear as ever in the face of the unexpected. "Major, the superiors issued orders just now," the soldier replied evenly. "Unless the head of state himself arrives, no one is allowed entry unless approved by both General Jin and Mr. Zhang, the chief of staff." The words were final, and the tension thickened in the air. The young man clenched his fists in frustration. He took a deep breath, the words leaving his mouth almost in a growl. "You!" But before he could say more, a voice from behind him interrupted, firm and commanding. The voice carried the weight of authority, and the man turned sharply. "Li Yang!" the voice boomed. A car moved forward, its window rolling down to reveal an old, weary face. The soldier snapped to attention, his gaze shifting to the man behind the wheel. "General, sir!" he saluted immediately, his voice filled with reverence. General Jin's face was expressionless as he nodded slightly. "Can we go in now?" he asked. His words were calm, but they carried an undeniable force. The soldier hesitated for a moment before responding, clearly struggling with the rigidity of the orders. "Sir," the soldier said hesitantly, "Chief Zhang has ordered that no vehicles be allowed inside the camp. Only walking is permitted." The atmosphere grew even more tense. A slight frown crossed General Jin's face as he looked at his injured leg. With a glance at the soldier, who now seemed uncomfortable, General Jin asked pointedly, "Even I have to walk?" The soldier winced, his discomfort palpable. "Sorry, sir," he said, his voice almost apologetic. "These are the orders from the top. No one is allowed to ride in vehicles." Li Yang's face flushed with anger, his breath quickening as the injustice of the situation sank in. But General Jin, ever the composed leader, raised a hand to calm him. "Go in yourself, Li Yang," he instructed. "Bring my documents and ensure Agent 005's safety. We cannot afford another loss like we did with Agent 003. Li Yang froze. His gaze lingered on the older general. Respect and determination filled his chest. He saluted, his voice firm despite the storm inside him. "Rest assured, General, I will complete this task." The weight of his promise felt heavier than ever before. Suddenly, the air was shattered by a deafening explosion. Flames roared into the sky, and a towering mushroom cloud rose into the darkness. Li Yang's eyes widened in shock, disbelief washing over him. The shockwave of the blast felt like it was hitting him in the chest. A cold sweat broke out on Li Yang's brow as he sprinted into the military base. The explosion had come from the 4th military prison, and he knew in his gut that this was no accident. His mission had just shifted into something far more dangerous. While the citizens of X slept peacefully, oblivious to the chaos unfolding just beyond the city limits, the explosion at the military prison was already capturing the attention of everyone around the country. Eyes were glued to the horizon, waiting for dawn, for answers, for the unknown. 4 hours before the explosion, the atmosphere in the courtroom of the country's 4th military prison was suffocating. 7 high-ranking military officials sat, their eyes sharp, their attention unwavering as they focused on the lone figure standing in the defendant's seat. The military judges, 5 of them seated on the stand, all in different uniforms from various military branches, seemed unfazed by the tension. Below them, soldiers stood in rigid formation, machine guns at the ready, ensuring that no one would disrupt the proceedings. The atmosphere was grave, the weight of the moment thick in the air. The courtroom was filled with an unspoken tension as the judge finally cleared his throat and addressed the woman sitting calmly in the defendant's chair. His voice was deep, full of authority. "Name?" he asked. "Chu Qiao," came the calm, slightly hoarse response. Her voice was steady, unwavering. She didn't flinch or look away, though her appearance might suggest otherwise. Her poised composure filled the room with an eerie calmness in the midst of the tense proceedings. The judge repeated his questions, his tone formal. "Gender?" he inquired. "Female," she replied without hesitation. The words were simple, yet they carried a depth of experience that spoke louder than any complex answer could. Her life was more than what appeared at first glance. "Birth date?" he continued. "October 8th, 90, she answered. Her voice was smooth, almost detached, as though each word had been rehearsed 1,000 times. This was the interrogation, but it felt more like a ritual, a dance of questions and answers, each one holding more weight. The questions continued, one after another. Hometown? Low city of Yuntu province. Past military positions? Her voice never wavered as she recited her military history, a decorated past that extended into covert operations and intelligence work. Her resume was impeccable. The room grew even quieter, as if the air itself was holding its breath. The judge continued with the dry questions, listing the operations she had been involved in. With each answer, it became clear that this was no ordinary soldier. Her history was as complex as it was dangerous. When asked about her participation in the most classified operations, her face remained unchanging. She described them in perfect detail, each mission, each victory, each moment of triumph. This was a woman who had seen things others could only imagine, things that left no room for doubt. But when the judge asked about her relationship with Agent 003, there was a subtle shift in her expression. Her gaze sharpened as she looked at the men in the room, her tone cool but cutting. "We were friends," she said simply. The simplicity of her words was deliberate and potent. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the judges exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. One asked, "Can we infer that you and Agent 003 were close, sharing everything with each other?" The insinuation was clear. It was an uncomfortable question that seemed to carry a hidden accusation. Chu Qiao's gaze hardened. She raised a brow, her eyes scanning the room. "Your Honor?" she began, her voice cold but steady. "Agent 003 and I shared the same training, the same missions. We were soldiers first, and nothing more. Do not question our professionalism." The female judge paled slightly under her intense gaze, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. The atmosphere shifted, growing tense as she sealed her lips, retreating from the unspoken challenge. The room was heavy with the weight of unspoken words, and Chu Qiao felt her power in that moment. The chief judge, sensing the turning tide, pressed on. "Chu Qiao," he began, his voice stern, "please explain the details of Operation M1N1. The room grew even quieter, every eye now focused on her. This was the moment that could change everything. The stakes had never been higher. Chu Qiao's posture straightened, her gaze unwavering. She knew this moment would define her. Slowly, she spoke, her voice calm and deliberate. "I wish to meet my superior before I elaborate further," she said, her tone final. "Or I will be tried in the highest military court."